Can you record?
We're gonna go do the secret rock.
Okay, let's go ahead and do roll call, please. Julie Fall. Robin Kissel.
Michael Cornelia. Corey Griffiths.
Steve has resigned and for medical reasons, so he will not be here this evening, or he's resigned from the board. So we'll address that later this evening as well. Okay, so that's the board, and online we have Leslie and Guy and a few others too. Let's get approval of the agenda.
To make a motion to approve the agenda for the night.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the previous minutes, that's both August 8th and the 24th.
Make a motion to approve previous agendas.
Minutes.
Or minutes, sorry.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, thank you. We were gonna have a presentation from Upper Pine Fire Department with Chief Bruce Evans, but doesn't appear that he was able to make it.
Hi, guys. Paul here with Upper Pine Fire. Yeah, not quite sure why Chief Evans isn't on board here. I apologize for that. I just tried to call him a couple times and I got no response. So yeah, sorry about that. That's unfortunate. I know he was scheduled to go first at 7 o'clock. So I'm not sure what happened. So sorry about that.
Did you want to step in for him, Paul?
Negative. I'm afraid I cannot.
Okay.
His message is I don't have a contingency plan for him. Unfortunately, I was hoping he would be able to jump on. We'll see what else we can do when I hear from him. Unfortunately, I can't step in for him and deliver his message. So I guess you can go ahead and continue.
Yeah, Paul, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and go to the committee updates, budget. Julie, do you have anything?
I do. I went through and did just a quick listing of everything for 2022 and 2023. And on average, right now standing, we're at 77,000 per month. And we have spent in expenditures 928,273.56. We still have 3 months to go. That's really all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Recreation, we haven't done anything with recreation as of yet, so there's no new no's on that one either. Going to personnel, Corey, you got anything?
Nada.
Okay, thank you. Public comments, do we have anybody that's non-agenda topics that would like to speak for 5 minutes, anybody?
Go.
Chris, anybody? Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and move to the reports from the staff. Guy, would you like to give the district manager's report?
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I included a written report in your packet. If there's any questions about that, I'm willing to take questions on that packet. One thing I will add, at the last meeting, there was a discussion and I said I would look into this about swimming in the lake. I did email your attorney that question. Haven't heard back from him. So when I get that information, I think that's kind of downstream a little bit on things he's working on. But when I have that answer, I will, of course, bring it to you. But if there's any questions on the written report, please let me know.
Did anybody have any questions regarding his?
No, not this time.
I did, but I think that goes down a little further, Guy, into the organizational later.
Okay.
All right,
when we get to that discussion. Good.
yeah, okay, I'm good.
Sounds good. Okay, office manager report, Amy, do you want to cover that?
Sure. Last month, we continued gathering documents for the 22 audit. We had 3 2-hour training sessions with Matt at Cassell, working on cleaning things up and fine tuning. The slash haul turned out awesome. We had about 65 residents that participated. We continued updating and maintaining our website, transcribed minutes from previous board meeting, created monthly reports for the water commissioner, continued working on file retention. Q2 payroll reports were sent out, payroll verification, review of employees sick and vacation and comp time, worked on accounts payable, accounts receivable, reconciled bank accounts, and then I have a breakdown below of shut-offs, friendly reminders, payments that were sent out.
The slash stuff. Did we get all the receipts turned in for reimbursement?
Yep, yep,
So
everything's wrapped up.
We have an ETA when they're gonna reimburse.
Probably within another month or more.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Trevor? You want to give the O&M activities report?
There's some up front.
Oh,
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay?
yeah, everything's good here. We're just, Chris is wanting an agenda, maybe? Is it? Yeah, okay. So we're getting an extra agenda. It's printed out. We'll be right back. That's good. So just be a moment.
Yes, Bruce Evans is on now too.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and have Trevor go ahead and finish his report, and then we can go back maybe and let Bruce fill in. It sounds like Bruce is going to be able to join us, so let's go ahead and let Trevor do his activities for O&M. So we finish we'll get that done. Trevor, you want to go ahead and give an update?
Yeah. Yep. So we repaired a hit water main on San Moritz due to Circle Z. They were doing a road crossing and they bored into our water main there on San Moritz. So we got that fixed. And in doing that, we wanted to locate some more of our mainline water shutoff valves. We had some work orders on them, but we just wanted to get some updated work orders and make sure those were more up to date. So we went and did that as well. We installed 2 new meter pits at 211 and 230 Blue Ridge Circle. We also fixed the leaking water service line on 322 and 334 Meadowbrook Drive. And then we had gotten a call from a new water service that we had put in earlier last month on 371 East Forest Lakes Drive. They said that there was some water coming up. We did some investigating and dug it up, determined that it was groundwater. LPA came out and hooked up their new power over there at our shop, and that's going to be for our new generator setup when we get that. We did some fire hydrant testing. We tested a total of 65 for last month. We did 15 meter changes, and we had some 811 locates. We had 119 total. We had 85 normal locates and 34 refresh locates. We continued to burn slash and then continuing to do our equipment maintenance and our water and wastewater ops. Did our meter reads. We had 19 incomplete meter reads, and then we had an additional 7 read reads that we had to do for high usage. And we did some road maintenance there on Forest Lakes Drive, Pine Valley, the upper and lower sections of Pine Tree, Ridgetop Circle, Pinecone Drive, East Valley View, Lakeview Drive, and Little Bear Drive. And we hauled a total of 32 3/4 unload of 3-inch. We had fixed and straightened some road signs, and the guys replaced 8 of them. And they also did some brush clearing on some of the blind spots. You know, some of our blind corners, they were cutting back some brush just for line of sight. The status of our fleet, everything's up and running. We did also, we did get our 2 new F550s in early of last week as well. And we'll be getting the new beds put on those at the end of this week and the end of the following week after that. And then as far as our safety incidences, we still have nothing to report. We're clear there. That's all I got.
I have a question. You mentioned something about a generator. I don't remember hearing about that being approved. Can you give more information on the generator?
It's something to do with like the amount of power. LPA came out and gave us a new power pole. That was like probably a couple months ago that they did that. And then they were able to set a new meter, and they also set up some new like control panels for our solar. For all of our solar panels will come over to our shop, and it's just a bunch of prep work for our solar work and for when we eventually get the generator, how that all ties up. So, and that's been going on for, I don't know, the last year or so.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the generator was supposed to be tied into the solar project that was approved.
Not the generator. The generator was not approved by the board. That was something that Bruce, the district manager, had done himself. And so that was full. It was gonna be like 160,000 if I recall. And that was full. So this is something different.
Right, they hooked everything up without the generator.
Right. That's what I understood.
The reference is to getting the generator. So is that on order?
No,
No.
Okay. It's in prep for possibly getting approved by the board
in the future.
for future. Okay,
But right
Yeah.
now it's hooked up to operate without it.
okay. Thank you.
I have another question for you, Trevor. With these new vehicles and all that, have you contacted anybody about getting decals for the trucks? Minus, not the magnet ones, but the actual stick-on ones?
I know we had a couple of the actual stickers. I think we've since then put those on a couple more of our vehicles, and we're out. I don't know who those came through, but I'll definitely track that down, and we need to get some more ordered, obviously. So, but I'll make sure that we get at least some of the stickers, because I feel like those magnet ones, they eventually just fall off. So
Magnets are no good.
Yes, I saw a couple in the shop, like on one of the machines or something in there. Just,
All right, thank you, Trevor.
yes, sir.
Can I ask Trevor a question? Kind of missed that opportunity with the public comment.
Okay, there's a leak possible leak on Snowbird Court. Where you guys just installed.
let's call that in.
Phone calls already to them,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, be sure and call anything, if there's leaks and stuff, just call those in.
Yeah, that's kind of important.
Yeah. Especially with the water.
They, we lit the shop room today, so they're aware.
I see that Bruce has joined us, Chief Bruce Evans. Do you want to give a quick synopsis of your presentation for us, Mr. Evans?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so everybody. So a couple things, and I don't know if you guys can allow me to share the screen here real quick. Leslie or whoever's in control here probably has to enable me to do that. So one of the things that, you know, while we were working through the technical issue on that, I wanted to show you a floor plan. So what I wanted to talk to the board about tonight was so we're coming up on an election issue where we're going to ask for the public support on extending our existing bond. So we have a bond that is going to expire in 2024. And we're looking to extend that for another 20 years for an infrastructure project that we're planning in Bayfield. And we're not only are we kind of socializing this project with community groups, but we're also working on our strategic plan as we're coming up on fire accreditation. And many of you may know we already have our ambulance accreditation, which is kind of a national good housekeeping seal of approval. We're now going after our accreditation for our fire operations through the Centers for Public Safety Excellence. And to do that, you have to do a SWOT analysis and you have to do some community meetings. So far we've done Deer Valley, we've done the Lions Club, we've done Aspen Trail and Los Ranchitos and the Vicito group. And we need to hit the folks in Forest Lakes to make sure that, one, we know what the expectation is of the residents in Forest Lakes, and number two, you know, what the people in Forest Lakes think as far as our strengths and weaknesses go for the fire district, and then some threats and opportunities. And then we ultimately get around to socializing what the project is. And you see if I can pull this up here. So tell me, can everybody see that?
Yes, it's on.
All right, can you see that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we've been working for probably the last 5 years on trying to relocate or rebuild our fire station 1 that's in Bayfield. And we finally closed on a piece of property right south of the Gosneys. And we were fortunately able to use our existing floor plan that we were planning over on Clover if we were able to have gotten the button factory over there, but we weren't able to relocate the equipment rental place out of there. We just couldn't find a good place for them to sit. It's amazing how equipment rental probably is like having an oil refinery in your backyard. Nobody wants it. And nobody wants it next door to them. So we were able to pick this project up, move it over, and set it on a 2-acre parcel that's right northeast of the traffic circle on County Road 501. And we're building a fire station and a rural health clinic built into the fire station. And part of this is to be able to launch our community paramedic program out of there. So we're already doing telemedicine where somebody that was a Medicare enrollee that called 911 and maybe they didn't want to go to the hospital, or maybe there was some question about what was wrong with them. Our EMS units currently have the ability to pop on a doctor and they would talk to an emergency room doctor in Grand Junction through a program called Hippo Health. So our folks are getting pretty used to the concept of using telemedicine. So I'm pleased to announce that we already have a partnership agreement for the clinic operation from Durango Urgent Care. And many of you may or may not know Brian, the owner of Durango Urgent Care. He's a Bayfield resident. He's been looking for a space over in Bayfield for many years. And it just so happened this worked out for us to be able to build a combination facility. So one of the issues on the facility is that, let's say, for example, you know, we only have 12,700 people in the fire district. So can that really support a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week urgent care? Probably not, as if you're talking about being seen by a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a PA. But if you're being seen by one of the fire district's community paramedics after hours, say it's 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, and you've either got a sore throat or a urinary tract infection that's been bugging you enough that you want to seek help for it, and you decide to come down to the clinic, and the community paramedic that's in the clinic would have all of the Bluetooth capability. So the little otoscope that looks in your ear and your mouth, it's Bluetooth. The stethoscope is Bluetooth. The ultrasound machine is Bluetooth. And then we have the capability to run, you know, some computerized laboratory stuff that is pretty simple. And then there'll be x-ray in this facility. So let's say that we find out, yeah, you got a sore throat, you got strep throat. We're going to pop on the telemedicine. You'll talk to a doctor in the ER, probably in Grand Junction or some other big city. And they'll say, yep, the paramedics shining the otoscope in your mouth. We can see it's all red in your posterior pharynx there. We're going to call in some Augmentin over at the Bayfield Pharmacy for you. You pick it up at 8 o'clock. The community paramedic will give you at least 1 day's work to get you started. And then you're out of the clinic at 3 o'clock in the morning being seen by a community paramedic, probably saving somewhere between $7,000 and $3,000 that you would pay to go over to Mercy at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning, plus the 18-mile drive, plus, you know, another 10 miles down from Forest Lakes or 8 miles down from Forest Lakes. So this is, like I said, a partnership with Durango Urgent Care. They've agreed to sign a 5-year lease on this with a 5-year option. And we're just kind of negotiating about them paying for the community paramedic to be in the facility also. So many of you know the old fire station that's on Clover Drive was never designed to house full-time people. And it was, you know, our headquarters when we were back in the volunteer days. Now that we have female firefighters, you know, having, you know, not a bunk room, but individual quarters and unisex bathrooms, you know, all things that a modern fire station should have. So with that, one of the things we want to do is, like I said, meet with the Forest Lakes constituents. And I'd ask for your guys' direction on this as the board and the staff there. Do you think it's better to have one big meeting where, say, for example, we would get the auditorium down at the school district? Because obviously, you know, the 1,100, you know, inhabitants of Forest Lakes, not all going to fit in one building, you know, that houses maybe 30 or 40 people. Or the other option is we can hold like 3 Forest Lakes meetings. We can do one on a Saturday, say from 10 to 2, and then a couple on the weeknights. I don't know when most of the commuters get into Forest Lakes, if 5 o'clock is too early, or 6 o'clock is too late, or is it the right time? And then we can either do a couple of Saturdays, a couple of weeknights, but we would prefer that to manage this, and we would do this down at our admin building, which our big classroom can hold about 35 people at a time. We would need to manage some kind of sign up and then cut it off at, say, 30, you know, no more than 35 people in that classroom. And whether you guys have the capability to kind of put something out as an email blast or in the water bill, you know, what's that look like? Or if there's an email chain or a Facebook page. I know many of the people that, like Clarissa's on here, she's on the Forest Lakes Facebook page and then on the neighborhood page. So what does that look like? And I'm looking for some direction from you folks about how this will work to get, you know, enough people from Forest Lakes down to take a look at this, give us some input on our strategic plan and on the fire district. So happy to entertain some suggestions or any questions on this that the board may have.
Let's see if I'm capturing this correct. You're wanting to get, like, on the election, that the bond continues for the next 20 years. That's currently going to expire in 2024. And so what you're wanting to do, as I understand, is you want to advertise what it is you're really going to be doing with this bond money and sharing that information with the residents here at Forest Lakes. In a couple meetings or something, probably your location that houses 35 max. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and so that's 50% of it. The other 50% is the fact that we are revising our strategic plan, and we do have some group activities that we've been going through with the neighborhoods. And many of you may be familiar with the SWOT analysis, where the small groups break up and they go to an easel and they write down what they think the fire district strengths are, what they think the weaknesses are, what they think the threats are, what they think the opportunities are. And then generally, one of the things we have to do for our strategic plan is say, what does Forest Lakes residents expect of the fire district? They expect EMS response, they expect mitigation, public education. What is it that you really think you want there? We've been surprised. I would tell you that when we did this with Deer Valley, they really didn't care about structure fire response. And, to a firefighter, that's sacrilege. And they were like, yeah, just let our house burn down. We don't want it partially burned, because then it's a pain in the ass to get a contractor to build you, to do a remodel versus just, we got insurance, just scrape it and we'll build a brand new house. And that was their mentality out there, because I found it a little bit shocking, but they put more emphasis on wildfire mitigation and EMS. That was their two big things by far. And then, like I said, structure fire response and some of the other things we do were way, way down on their priority list. So yeah, you're right. Number one is we want to socialize this, because we can't do this without the bond being extended. We would have to come up with some other alternative funding. Now, I would tell you that the way this thing is going to get funded, one way or another, is we're applying for a USDA loan on this, but we still have to make the loan payments. So the USDA has agreed to carry the loan for the entire cost of the project at 2.1%, and we can go up to 40 years on the loan terms. And this is their number one project for them. Now, it's my job to go out and find grant money to offset that and try to lower the loan amount, of which, because we're a rural health clinic, there's a lot of federal money available for it. And because we're a government agency building it, we're going to ultimately lease it to a private agency. We still qualify to be able to get money for it. But back to your question, yes, we want to socialize this with the people about the election initiative. And then we need their input on our strategic plan.
Question, Chief Evans. Is this something that you're wanting to have done as a special meeting with Forest Lakes, or just as you socialize it, it's Forest Lakes is pretty much out of it, other than maybe communication?
It's up to you. I'd be happy to, if your board has some, some comments, or they want, you want us to come up and just meet with your board. I mean, we do like cooperative work sessions with, the county and the town of Bayfield. There's no reason we shouldn't be doing a cooperative session with the Forest Lakes Metro District, because you're just like us. You're a special district, and you're the only really special district that's within the fire district that, has the same status that we do. And, so yeah, we could do something as a special meeting with just your board and your staff and go through exactly what we would want to go through with the public. It's, it's an interesting fact, and I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but you have more registered voters, at least in the fire district and the library district in Forest Lakes, than the town of Bayfield does. So you guys outvote them every election. So you actually carry the east side of the county more so than the town does.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we cannot hold a meeting outside of our 6 mile radius is what I thought I had read. So we wouldn't be able to have it as any kind of a meeting with all of the residents at another location because we're outside of that 6 mile radius.
You have in Bayfield before.
But you could also make it a public meeting there
Right,
at the, like the high school or the school. And it sounds like you want more people informed anyway.
Right.
This would be the fire department's meeting. We would just be spreading the word.
Okay.
Making that information available, and we could probably put something on our website for updating information and making that available for
I
knowledge.
know the rec center is not in the greatest shape. Is it in good enough shape we could host a meeting there, or Bruce can host a meeting there at the rec center?
No,
I would,
It's pretty terrible.
it's boarded up. We can't use that.
Yeah, I think the rec center, you know, you got too many trip hazards and everything else in there. I mean, we've done that in the past, the rec center, you know, like for example, the Aspen Trails in the Forest Groves and Los Ranchitas we did at Colorado Trails Ranch. Some of you may not have been up there before, but they have a thing they call the Opera House up there, which seats about 100 people. You know, in the past, we've done things over at Camp Kivu, where they had an auditorium that seated about 100 people. And that's why I think it's a challenge for you folks without a common area. And that's why I want to try to split them up and do like 3 or 4 different meetings. And really what I'm asking for some help on is to get the signups for that and how we would do that. What I don't know the best way to penetrate the populace of Forest Lakes. Is that you guys sending out an email, or you have a master email list that you can send them and say, okay, here's your 3 options to meet at Upper Pine about a new fire station project and help them with their strategic plan. Please sign up. And then once it's at 30, you cut it off. And, if we overload or we fill all 3 of those meetings with 30 people, then we can always do more. And we'll have some other media out on this. We're planning on October 8th. There'll be a Herald article on it. That should be pretty extensive, kind of explaining what community paramedicine is about, what cloud clinics are about, and then, how this thing is going to get launched. So yeah, I mean, I'd acquiesce to whatever you guys recommend. If you have the ability to get the signups, that's great. If you don't, then, we'll just try to penetrate it through the Facebook page or through the neighborhood page, which seems to capture a lot of your folks up there.
hey, Bruce.
Yep.
So are you talking about this election this fall?
Yep.
So so if you're talking about that election, then you need to back out your timeline. So that's, first Tuesday in November. Then your mail-in ballots are going to come, 3 or 4 weeks before that. So you're looking in the next 2.5, 3 weeks, you need to have this meeting before ballots end up on people's doorsteps.
Right. And I've got some dates, all written down here, 9/23, 9/28, 9/29, 9/30, 10/21, 10/23. Some of those are Saturdays. There's 3 Saturdays and then a Thursday, Friday, and a Monday. And like I said, we can accommodate any of those. We do have several other subdivisions already scheduled to meet with them. So this is where we've gotten down to where we can fit, multiple Forest Lakes meetings in.
Hey, Jamie, when do the water bills go out? When do they put in the mail?
Around the 26th of the month, that last week.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Bruce, I would suggest avoiding weekends. I think a 6 or 6:30 start with a little food in a larger place and record it. And then have that recording on your website or available or distributed might be a good way to handle this. I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to get multiple events. That's why I would think try to have at least one, maybe have it in the school If you can find a larger auditorium or something more than your guys' 35 seats. But record it and maybe have some, have everything that you want to have asked and answered. So you can get it out on your website. You can email out to everybody, get it to the Durango Herald, so on and so forth. I'm just worried about the time constraints of trying to do multiple meetings. I'm not sure having meetings of 30 people at a time is going to be your best use of your time. I would think a bigger auditorium, a little bit of food, record it might be a better way to go.
Right. And part of the reason on the smaller groups has been is that we do have, the process has been, getting groups up and out of their chairs and, kind of gaggled together and kind of moving around on the easels, writing things down. And not to say that's impossible at the Bayfield Performing Arts Center, but it'd make it a little difficult navigating the chairs, but we can certainly try that. And Leon's been more than happy to offer up any of the school facilities. So.
We think that we can maybe put some information, whatever you liked, and the dates available that you're actually having meetings, we can put that on our website as additional information, and maybe phone numbers to call that if they have other questions, you'd be available, or somebody would be able to answer some of those questions maybe as well.
Yeah, and then, two of those dates that I had on there, the 9/28, 9/29, our architects are actually going to be here, and they're going to do a little bit of public meeting no matter what, because they're meeting with our crews over blueprints and some other features inside the building. And then they also have a joint meeting with the Durango urgent care people about the final layout of the clinic. We've moved some rooms around and did a little bit of redesign compared to what you see here, to increase a little bit more capacity for the clinic, building for the future. When you build a fire station these days, you're building it for 70 years. So we want to make sure that this thing's going to be able to handle any expansions that come anywhere in the Pine River Valley. So how about this? How about I'll send down a couple of dates, and we'll do one big meeting on a weeknight, and then we'll do. And the reason, Guy, I was thinking about a couple of Saturdays is if people come down from Forest Lakes to the Bayfield Farmers Market, and they get there early, like 8 or 9 o'clock. They get one of those fantastic cinnamon rolls that's there. And then they pop over to our meeting till maybe noon. This process has been taking about 2 hours to get through it all and answer a lot of questions that people have about it. But, the other thing, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but, we're one of the things that we're trying to do with this is bring, urgent care to the town of Bayfield or to the Pine River Valley. And I'm sure that you guys know there's plenty of people that venture over to Mercy and they get discharged the same day. And the way insurance is going these days, they'll cover 100% of an urgent care visit, but it's usually only 80% of an emergency room visit. And of course, because it's a big corporate conglomerate next door, not always the best value for your money.
I think Charissa has something in the chat. Can you pull that up, Jamie? A suggestion. What about setting up chairs in one of the Station 5 bays for Forest Lakes residents?
Yeah, we can do that. We've done, pancake breakfasts down there, for when we're raising money for somebody with breast cancer at Forest Lakes. So we could certainly do that. We could pull the apparatus out and we could set up a bunch of chairs and bring some tables up. That's a great idea, Clarissa. We could certainly do one meeting at Station 5 in the app bay, and we got portable screens and PowerPoint, and we can set it up in there. It's just not, it won't be pretty. So.
And if you-
on the key fob area, put a little flyer up there too, maybe to get more people.
Okay. And we'd be happy to put anything out in our water bill, but the space to put stuff on the water bill is probably a third the size of a tweet. It's very limited characters.
Okay.
But we'd be happy to do that. As you heard, our water bill goes out in this month. So.
Okay. Well, and I think, you know, we made some additions and some add-ons to Station 5, which is the main station that services Forest Lakes, but the second new station would be this one into Forest Lakes if that equipment was out, and certainly all the backup equipment that would come for a wildland fire or structure fire that would be in Forest Lakes. The second due crews would be out of the station in Bayfield. And right now, the station in Bayfield takes about 2/3 of the fire district's 911 calls, and then Station 5 and the north end of the lake make up the bulk of everything else, and then a few out on the fringe districts. But I'm happy to answer any questions now you guys have seen this. And like I said, there is a few more tweaks to go to it before it goes to the Herald. And there's, you know, if you guys have any input or, you know, how you feel about a clinic coming to the Pine River Valley that would be 24/7, and, you know, whether you've had those experiences where you've had to trek, you know, 20 miles over to the hospital and then be discharged the same day, and then, you know, see that the bill might be a little bit more than you expected.
Question, Guy or other members on the board, since we are a metropolitan district and we are board members, any information coming from us on a bond issue or an election issue, are we allowed to do that, or could it be misconstrued as an endorsement on an election issue?
It's not your bond. So Bruce can't take a position actively. This board, I would recommend not. As citizens, you are free to do. Well, actually, I think you actually can approve a resolution if you want to, and support or against it. But you can pass a resolution as a board. As individuals, you can campaign any way, shape, or form you see fit. It's not your bond issue that's going out to the voters. It's the fire districts.
So
I
it's
think
individual. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, individually, you're free to speak out in any way, shape, or form you feel. You just can't say you're representing the Forest Lakes Metro District.
As an individual, you can't say that I represent Forest Lakes and this is how you should do it.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
I'll look into it. My guess is yes, you can offer and pass a resolution in support or against it, whatever the board may deem necessary. I'm assuming support, but you never know. I think you guys can do that, but I'll check.
Yeah, and I would tell you that the reason we're extending the bond is that we're currently assessing a mill levy to pay off that bond, and you know we're trying to angle this thing so that we can build it without increasing taxes and just extending what you're already giving us or what the public is already giving us. You know, about 60 to 70% of this building would be funded by the bond extension for 20 years. We're thinking that Bayfield's going to be big enough after 20 years that the tax money that would be coming in from anything down there would offset that. So we shouldn't need it for more than 20 years. And then the rents that Durango Urgent Care has already agreed to pay would cover about another 20 to 30% of it. And then that leaves really just about 10 to 20% of it being made up out of operating money that's coming from the fire district, which would be ambulance revenue and any grant monies. And then the community paramedic role, you know, certainly that's a billable service now in the state of Colorado. So even if that community paramedic comes up and sees that sore throat or urinary tract infection, somebody's house in Forest Lakes, and we do all the diagnostics at the house, and it gets, you know, deemed that, you know, going to the emergency room would probably be, you know, not the right thing to do, and that they could be treated and released there in Forest Lakes. And then maybe our community paramedic runs down and picks up the medication and brings it back to that person, and then comes and checks on them a day or two later. And they stay in their house. You know, maybe it's a winter and they don't want to drive over to Durango to get their, you know, primary care, urgent care stuff done. And not that this would offset, you know, people that already have relationships with Centura over at the Bayfield Clinic. You know, this is for things that are a little bit more urgent, or if you can't get an appointment over there, you need to be seen immediately, you know, but yet it's not a life-threatening emergency. And you can see we've got an ambulance bay designed into this thing, and the community paramedics. Let's say somebody walks in with indigestion and we find out it's a heart attack. You know, they're right there, and then the crews can come over and jump in and rush them over to Mercy if they needed to. So, you know, like I said, it's a novel concept. I don't think there's any fire departments that have done this in the country yet. But I think we're 2 years out from this thing actually being open and running. You know, if we break ground for construction on this in May of next year, the architects are telling us it should be done in September of 2025. And Guy, I think you're right. I know that when you guys were contemplating, I don't know, probably 5-8 years ago about running an increase in your mill levy for the Metro District because you need some infrastructure issues with, you know, some piping or some water storage tanks or something. I know that we were approached at that time by the Metro District supervisor about whether we would come out and endorse that. So I think other special districts can officially, you know, if you pass it, you know, with whatever your rules are, a simple majority or a 2/3 majority for resolutions or endorsements, you can do that. I'm not asking you to do that, but if you are excited enough about the project and you think it's worthy, you know, we'd certainly welcome it. You know, I think we're going to get some support from the county on it. And then, like I said, we've already talked to many of the other subdivisions, but we haven't really asked for anything other than people to vote to extend the bond, and made it clear that we're not raising your taxes. We're just continuing to collect what you're already giving us.
Thank you, Chief Evans. Appreciate you giving us information on that. We'll see what we can do to help you out over there.
Yeah, and you know, in the future, if you guys want to sit down and, you know, we want to do a joint work session like we do with the town of Bayfield or the county commissioners. I mean, you know, there's obviously a lot of infrastructure issues that you guys are dealing with. There's certainly, you know, and I would just tell you that, you know, Forest Lakes is very, very important to the fire district. You guys are almost a third or 20, I think you're 23% of our assessed evaluation in the fire district. And you're still the largest subdivision in La Plata County, as far as I know. And you're probably the most highest risk when it comes to fire, other than, you know, I'd probably put you up against Twin Buttes now, but, you know, we definitely are, you know, try to keep a vigilant, look at what's going on at Forest Lakes. And, you know, we've dumped probably almost $1 million in mitigation money into Forest Lakes. And now I know that you know, the Firewise group is kind of taking that over and is doing some of that for you. But, you know, we did recently improve your emergency egress with some grant money that we went after. And I think we've got a little bit more money to finish that off or enhance that even better. So, you know, Forest Lakes is on our radar screen all the time. Is something that has to be going on up there in a prevention way, whether it's fire mitigation, wildland fire mitigation, or just regular safety issues up there. Certainly out in Unit 3, you know, we've got all our issues out there, but, you know, like I said, you guys are important to us, and not only just from the fact that, you know, probably a third of my staff lives on San Moritz. The other thing is that you're, like I said, you're the big subdivision, and, you know, we can't have anything catastrophic go down up there.
We agree. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks, Chief. Get a hold of me.
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead and finish up the reports from the staff. Financial, Leslie, did you want to give like an update on like that email that was sent out? And
Yeah. Happy to talk for just a minute about what's going on with the finances. Probably start just with an update on Cassell. And I did want to let everybody know that we're so excited. We've made so much progress in bringing Cassell into where it's a workable tool. We've got all the old history all cleared out of it that the implementation team had in there from multiple attempts to upload beginning balances. So that's all done. The general ledger is all in balance. The only technical issue we still have left is there's about a $7,000 discrepancy between what the general ledger says the district owns in terms of cash and what the bank statements say. And that's all tied into switching from QuickBooks over to Cassell in July. And so we're picking through that transaction by transaction with Matt from Cassell and gradually sorting that out. And it's a way smaller number than it used to be. So I'm really excited. I feel like the system is working great. And now it's just a matter of working through processes and learning to switch from not having fund-based accounting to now having fund-based accounting, from the prior method of using cash-based accounting to now the current method is using accrual-based accounting. And so I think the 2022 statements are pretty close to ready to go to audit. I am expecting to see some audit adjustments, and I think most of those audit adjustments are going to come from the issue of accrual-based accounting versus cash-based accounting, where the district was using cash-based before. By statute, districts are supposed to be using fund-based. And in the past, it was really left to the auditors to switch the district's books over to accrual-based. And that's really not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is to really just be in accrual-based accounting all the time. And so the good news with that is that we're not going to have that issue at the end of 2023. Because in the current system, everything is going to be done according to the way it should be. So there's still a little bit of cleanup, and I'm thinking that there's going to be some audit adjustments. I'm not really sure the amounts those are going to come through. And I'm not really sure if we have an auditor yet. Guy, we haven't hired anybody yet, right?
We've not hired anybody. I've gotten one response. I put the deadline at the end of this week for getting responses back. But we have, I sent it to 24 or 25 auditing companies who have worked in this area. And I've heard back from 2. One sent us a polished up RFP response. I think they responded the last time. And then another one said, was polite enough to say we're not interested. Actually, I've had 2 that say they're not interested. So I've heard from 3 firms.
Okay, so yeah, that's kind of what we're working on. As far as we know, we've got everything uploaded that an auditor would want to see, but whatever auditing firm comes in is going to give us their own list, and we'll have to go through and see what we have. But I think we're close enough to go to audit as soon as we get an auditor, and we'll work with them on solving the sort of accrual versus cash-based issues. So that's the situation with Cassell. I thought that I would probably just talk about the financial statements themselves for just a minute, because I'm sure that not all of you are used to looking at fund-based accounting. You haven't seen it from Forest Lakes before. And so I just want to talk a little bit about what's on the different pages. I mean, I can share my screen if that would be easier, but you guys probably also have a paper copy in front of you. What's the best thing for you guys?
Probably share your screen because other people are.
Want me to share my screen? Okay.
Do anything already?
Sean should have it.
So can you guys see that?
Yeah. Now it looks like something's there. There it is.
Hey,
Okay.
there's a report I recognize. All right.
There you go. So guy's been working in Cassell for a long time. So Hubert isn't, this is all familiar to him.
And even
know
zero
that you
proofs,
guys-
that's wonderful.
I've got to move this out of my way. Okay, so the first page you're going to see on the financial statements is an explanation of the cash. And so this top section here tells you all of the cash that the district has in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different bank accounts that it has with a total amount of cash. And then the next section down below tells you of that $1,285,000 worth of cash that the district owned at the end of 2022, which funds it belonged to. So it tells you that 574,000 of it belongs to the general fund, 745,000 of it belongs to the water fund, and 34,000 of it belongs to the sewer fund. So you'll see this on the front page of the financial statements every time the system runs a full set of financial statements, which includes the balance sheet. And I'm not sure if you guys are used to seeing the balance sheet at the monthly meetings, or if you're just used to seeing the income statement primarily, but this is a big part of the balance sheet, is explaining to you where your cash is. And then you're going to go into a separate set of financial statements for each fund. So there are 3 primary funds: the general fund, the sewer fund, and the water fund. But there are also 3 additional funds that are not really involved in the operations of the district. There is this agency fund that's been on the books for a long time, which I'm hoping we can at some point write off. I don't know that anybody involved in the district now really knows the history of it. There's also a fund for general fixed assets. I'll talk about that a little bit when we get there. But right now you're going to start off with a balance sheet for the general fund. So this cash that you saw allocated to general fund up here, that's how you're going to start with the balance sheet for the general fund. So you've got your cash, you know, your assets. Most of you are used to seeing a balance sheet. Your assets, your liabilities, and down at the bottom is the fund balance. So the fund balance of the general fund at the end of 22 was $1,047,000. And then you can see up above and from the previous page, $574,000 that is cash, and the rest of it is other assets, mostly income that the district is expecting to receive.
Hey, Leslie, can I interrupt you real quick? I want to make sure everybody understands that this is end of year last year.
This is 2022 end of year. And 2023 is, you know, going to be the exact same format. So, you know, I'm not sure how much you want to go through the numbers on either one of these, but kind of really I just want to give you an idea of what the format looks like, and so that you know what you're looking at.
So if you'll see at the bottom of her report, there's 100% of the fiscal year has elapsed. So when she gets into the individual line items, it'll have how much was spent that period, how much is spent total, and how much is budgeted, and what percent, as you can see there. So this is the report that's really going to be germane to your guys' fiduciary responsibility and the management of your organization from a staff point of view.
Yeah, so the next thing that we go into is the income statement. It's got all of the income on one page, and this is just for the general fund. And this is what you're not used to seeing, is each fund separated out, but each fund has its own separate set. This is all of your revenue for your income for your general fund, 914,000. Moving on through your expenses, and in the general fund, the expense area is separated into 3 separate departments. You've got the roads department, recreation department. Each one has their subtotal. And then a grand total administrative is a department. Grand total expenses for all 3 departments, 963,000. So net revenue over expenditures, if you're used to working in business accounting, that's your net profit, 48,000. Actually, it's negative, it's a net loss. These are parentheses here at the bottom. That means that expenditures were actually over revenues that year. Your budget was at 928. You can see in the 3rd column over, and general fund expenditures were at 963. So 34,000 over budget, again, unaudited. So we'll see what the auditor comes up with in terms of fund balance and net revenue. But that's what the general fund looks like for last year right now. Then you go into the water fund, same thing. Water fund owns $745,000 of the cash. Total assets, 4,300,000. And the thing that you're going to see that's different in the water fund and in the sewer fund, they're both considered proprietary funds, which means, I'm sorry, not proprietary funds.
Enterprise.
Thank you, enterprise funds, which means they're supposed to be self-supporting. They're supposed to work just like a business. The revenues are supposed to cover all of the expenditures, and you're supposed to look at the balance sheet like you would look at a business balance sheet. And so in both the water fund and the sewer fund, in the asset section, you're going to see fixed assets. You're going to see the water rights, the construction, the maintenance center, and all of the big assets that are owned in that fund, whereas you don't see that in the general fund. You'll see that later on in the statements, but in the water and sewer fund, you're going to see all these fixed assets. Same thing, you've got all your liabilities here, and then your fund balance. $3,600,000 is the fund balance, but then again, in the water fund, your fund balance includes all your big fixed assets here. So that's why your fund balance looks so high. It does show right here, revenue over expenditures is 38,000, and you'll see that total when you get down into your income statement again. So again, a whole separate page for your revenue, 700,000 in revenue. The water fund actually has 4 departments: sources, supply, treatment, transmission, and administrative. And then you've got your total expenditures down here at 672. You can see that the budget for the year was 909. So that's a positive variance of 236,000 in the water fund. Budget to actual. Sewer fund, same thing. You've got your balance sheet first. It includes all your big assets. This cash up here, that's actually a negative 34,000 in cash, rolls over from the beginning where you saw that. The liabilities in the sewer fund, and then your total fund balance, 2,125,000, and all of that fund balance is really your fixed assets that's given it that fund balance. Another whole page for your revenue, 500,000, budget 667. So are we a little bit shy on revenue? A little bit. You've got 3 expense areas, and then your net revenue over expenditures. So it was $30,000 lower than projected fund balance at the end of the year. And then these last few statements, the system spits them out. You're probably not interested in this agency fund that's been on the books forever. And here are all, then there's another fund for the general fixed assets. And these are all the big fixed assets that the general fund owns. But in government fund accounting, the big assets are split off into their own fund. So you see those here, your big assets, and you shouldn't, because this is just a fund for fixed assets, you're not going to see any revenue or expenses in this fund. You might see depreciation expense. And then there's another one for long-term debt, and this district doesn't have a bond issue or anything like that, so long-term debt is not an active fund. Part of the construction loan is in here, and I think that that's one thing the auditor is probably going to deal with, is the construction loan, and figure out where that's supposed to be. And all the rest of this is basically paper liabilities, pensions, and that sort of thing. So these last few pages are probably not going to be all that important to you. I'm sure you're interested mostly in the budget versus actual for the year. And so the 2023 statements have the same format. I ran these through August. Same thing, cash, 1,000,007. Shows down here that it's how it's allocated, and there's a couple little weird items here that need to be sorted out. This really should proof to exactly 1,000,702. It's showing a little bit of money in the general fixed asset fund that probably shouldn't be there. And then this $5,869. I think that probably has to do, I'm not sure what that has to do with, but you know, when these are finalized, that probably won't be there either. And then we have our balance sheet, and then what I think everybody really is wanting to see more than anything is where we are year to date with budget versus actual. So you'll see that on this statement. And again, I'm not going to go through the numbers too terribly much. You've got copies of these. I'm sure everybody's going to want to pick through it, but I just did want to talk a little bit about how it's structured and give you guys a chance to ask any questions about it. And give me a little feedback on what you want to see in terms of financial reports at board meetings, and just kind of get started on the whole process.
One thing I'm going to add to this, and Leslie, thank you so much for this. This is looking great. Is so in the general fund, you have administration and roads and a couple other things, sub funds. What matters is that the general fund itself comes in balanced at the end of the year. So if you have administration that's like 105%, roads at 90%, so on and so forth, and they all kind of add up generally to below 100%, then you're fine. And so that's when you're reading your budget in the macro sense, you're wanting to make sure that the funds balance. And then obviously for the day-to-day operations of the government, you are looking at your sub funds and you're watching those pretty carefully.
Yeah, and as far as staying in compliance goes, the board does have the ability to move things around within each fund. You don't really have the ability to move allocations around from fund to fund without having a big vote. But if the general fund allocates a certain amount of money, it's not going to throw you out of compliance at the end of the year if one item's over, another item's lower. Like Guy says, you're looking at your total expenditures and total revenue over expenditures for staying in compliance with your budget. Which at this point down here, as you can see in the general fund, it is showing total expenditures for the year so far at 759. The budget's at 1,000,001 with 369 up unspent, and it's showing here 67.2%.
Which is a good number because we're at 69% of the way through the year. If you can scroll that up or down real quick. So yeah, we're at 67. Let me see the bottom of the page.
Are you looking at the revenue here at 69?
No, I'm just trying to see how far through the year we are. 67% of the way through the year.
Oh,
67. So yeah.
67.
So we're right around the numbers we're looking to be at.
Yeah. So that's we can kind of scroll through and see what that bottom line number is on the other funds too, if you want to. This is the water fund. That's the balance sheet. Let's get into the income statement. Here's the revenue. 601 out of 758 possession, so 79% collected. That's probably because a good portion of this is property tax, and that comes in the first half of the year.
Very good.
4 departments. Sorry?
Very good. This is good to see. Thank you.
Yeah, so here we are here. There's this number you're looking for, Guy, 46% of the budget spent in water. 351,000 of expenditures with 758 budgeted. So water fund seems to be doing okay at the moment. We have a sewer fund. Balance sheet. Your sewer fund revenue is at 74%, 74.9 collected for the year. And then just glancing right down to the bottom line, 47% expenditures as well, 265 out of 564 budgeted. So yeah, so that's kind of the highlights. Does anybody have any questions about this format or how to read this, or any comments on kind of what you'd like to see, or anything for me?
For the explanation, because I really didn't understand it until just now.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Thank you for the explanation. I didn't really understand it. I'm sure I'm gonna have more questions, but yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you, Leslie. Really appreciate that. Okay, I saw that Mark Fusion was on there. I was wondering if he might want to share any updates, or if he had anything to share. Mark, do you have anything you'd like to share with the board? I mean to put you on the spot or anything, though.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Basically the only thing that I really have to share with you is that after conferring with Guy, I went ahead recently and signed us up for the LSLI assistance program from the state. And what that entails, if we get selected, is that they will provide financial assistance and also more than likely boots on the ground to do this program, as opposed to staff doing it and you guys paying me to complete this. So we're still waiting to hear from them on that. And once we get an answer from that, we'll know which direction we need to go. That's kind of the big thing on the screen right now, other than what we can and cannot do with our infiltration and inflow problem that we have, and trying to get some manholes rehabbed. That's still kind of up in the air because we're not entirely sure what that was going to cost for per manhole, or how much money we actually have to spend on that, which may be more clear now. So that's about all I have to share with you right now.
I have opportunity for some cost sharing on that. I'm looking at lining some manholes in Bayfield, so it might save some mobilization cost.
Thanks, Corey.
Yeah, I believe that company had called Tim, and Guy is already in contact with them, I believe, on all that. So
I am. But I'm going to look into that, of course, so thank you.
Okay, moving right along, property tax collection year to date. According to this, August 31st, 2023, we received $674,733.81 of the levied property tax of the 704,709. Water pumping, in August, we pumped over 6 million gallons of water between the 4 wells, looks like. I'm guessing that has to do with some of the construction we got going on too. No. Unfinished business, I have none according to the agenda. Everybody agree? Okay, new business, we have an action approval for the organization chart, the job description, and wage scale. Did everybody get a chance to look at that? The chart, the wage scale?
And I have a question on it, guy. And maybe it's just me overtaking this, but it kind of seems like it's backwards. Seems like your admin one and your operator ones would be entry level, and then 3 would be your high level.
You know, when I was looking through things, I saw them numbered and lettered different ways, so that's what I chose. I can renumber them.
Oh, I mean, it don't matter to me. I'm just curious why you went there. It seems backwards to me.
That makes sense. It really does.
The entry level being 1 and
Yeah.
the higher experience
Being level
being
one.
3. Okay. Also, I believe that few of us have reviewed the job descriptions and stuff. We did find some typos. We'll make sure that those get corrected,
Okay.
before we finalize that.
I do have a question. There's no, under the part-time employee, it says that there would be a current physical exam. I don't see that it was showing unless I missed it for anybody else. Is it just for the part-time person or is that for all employees?
No, I think I might take that out because I think your handbook addresses it as to who needs a physical.
If they hold a CDL, then there's the DOT exam that gets done
Yeah,
in a
this-
minimum of 3 years.
Yeah, so I'll pull that out because I think that's covered in your handbook actually.
One thing I also didn't see was, we have an employee or a rotation for Saturday work. I didn't see that listed on any of the positions.
It's not, I think what I put in is, there's an expectation for, on-call or rotation. I think I put that in some of the job descriptions
Okay.
because that may vary, you know. So that's kind of it may be a hard schedule or it may be a movable schedule, but I think when I wrote it, I put down an expectation that there would be coverage time and on-call time and stuff like that. A couple things real quick. The director positions that I'm creating, those will be exempt. Those will not be hourly positions anymore. Those will be salary positions, as I would recommend. No employee of the district, and this is really critical to understand, is going to lose seniority, is going to lose benefits, is going to lose time they've accrued, is going to lose any of that stuff that's called out in the employee handbook. If an employee is transferred internally and they are below the range that I have in the pay scale, then they are brought up to the low part of that range, but they're brought up to the range. If they are within a range, there will be no change. So no employee will lose money through this transition as well. They will stay on their current salaries, but they'll be put into the bands where their job would be. There's like, you know, no loss of seniority, benefits, anything like that. When I did the wage scale, as you see in my notes, I got Durango, Bayfield, and Cortez's wage scale. Then I went through with the jobs and I figured out, okay, what is needed educational wise, competency wise, licensing, stuff like that, that would compare what we have to a job on their scale. So when I would find that comparable job, I would list it. Then I took all 3 of those communities and those jobs and averaged them. And that's how I got our wage scale. So we're kind of a combination of all 3 for what we need in the job description part. As far as the wage scale, that's how I got those numbers. They're not the highest, they're not the lowest. They're mid-range for all those organizations. It's the best I could come up with to try to find a way to stay competitive with what others in the industry in the area might be offering. Although it's very hard to compete against Durango, for instance. It's hard to compete against Bayfield. We just don't have a ton of revenue. But I think it gets us to a comfortable area and gives us some parameters when we go out to hire and what current employees and new employees can expect as they climb the ladder and so on.
Any other questions? No?
I have one. This is a significant change as far as finances go to the higher salary. And I know that you're working on the budget and everything and getting that balanced, but are we going to cut some expenditures next year or would we need to in order to make these adjustments?
So on the fiscal note portion of my cover, I indicated that if every position is hired and current staff who are below their pay range are increased, the total increase in annual salary will be roughly $60,000. This will come out of various payroll lines in the 24 budget, but a majority of that comes with adding a fourth employee to the roads side of the equation. That is just salary. That's not benefits as well. So you're looking at about an $80,000, $75,000 to $80,000 total hit. Yes, I think you can accommodate that, especially if it's going to be coming out of your general fund. You should be okay. As you saw going through those numbers, you're having some rough spots in your water and sewer funds. Your sewer looks like to be in a little worse shape than your water. Your general is holding pretty steady. So yeah, I think you can incur these costs.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
How soon are we gonna implement this?
If it's approved this evening, I come back into the district Monday and I start the discussions with staff. I do want to let you know that I did meet with staff Monday morning to go over this and show them what I was thinking. So they've had an opportunity to read the job descriptions, look at this stuff. I think by and large, they see the need for this and I think they're supportive of it. I'm not going to put words in their mouth. I think the devil's in the details as they look farther into job descriptions and stuff like that. And then it's the discussion of filling out the staff roster. But that will start, if this is approved tonight, that'll start Monday when I get back. I want to get this thing rolling. I want to get some of the disciplines set up, get some leadership in place and turn them loose on doing their business. But I was just seeing, since my time here, the current structure is inefficient. The communications internally is inefficient. The communications with the management and board is inefficient. I just think there's a better way of doing this, and this is the best I could come up with.
Well, I know I had this discussion with you already, Guy, but for the rest of the board, I'm pretty sure this is potentially going to create some turmoil. And if employees want to walk out, I say bye.
I think we're all in agreement about that.
I don't think we need to discuss this matter anymore.
So I make a motion to approve the district job descriptions, wage scale, and organizational chart.
Second.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
So passed.
Thank you for that, Guy.
Thank you very much, King.
Monday. We also had a procurement policy to discuss. Did everyone get a
Yes.
chance to look at?
So this is a discussion item. Julie and I have been taking a look at this and she put in some really good, this is something I've used in prior communities. I wanted to run this by you to see if it's too much, too little. Is it kind of what you're thinking about when you talk about procurement policy? But right now, your rules, regulations, and bylaws that you follow have a bidding and contracting procedure, but it looks like it's just for construction. So it's not talking consultants or one-offs or special projects or anything like that. So I was looking for some way to kind of have a cast a wider net in the process. And so this is something I've used to good effect in other communities. In fact, they're smaller than your community. I've used it in a town of 500 people and a town, staff roughly the same size, 10 people. And it was very easy to follow. It's pretty clear about who has the decision-making, who has to approve things, what you have to do to issue an RFP. So I wanted to just get feedback as to if you guys think we're heading down the right road. If so, then we'll polish it up and bring it back at the next meeting. If not, I would love feedback and we can take this in a different direction.
I like this direction. One thing I didn't really see was, anything in regards to local preference.
There is a section local preference. It says if it is doable, basically is what it comes down to. Let me see if I can find that section. If I remember correctly, let's see, local goods means goods, materials, or supplies that are harvested, mined, produced, manufactured, sold, distributed, or assembled in La Plata County. And you know, there may be, like one town I worked at, we were on the border of kind of like 3 counties. So we actually widened it to 3 counties.
I looked over, I'm sorry.
No worries. But you know, if that's something that you want expanded to other counties, or if you don't think it's germane, you know, in a place on the Front Range, it's easier to find services. In smaller, more rural areas, sometimes it is more difficult. But I think the sentiment's important to try to buy local and buy people and services, goods and services, support the local economy too.
Guy, did we pass this to the attorney for his input at all yet, or?
We have not. With that said, it has gone through 2 other attorneys I've been with over the years, but I'd be more than happy to pass this on. And I think it's important that your attorney get a look at it as well. So if this is the direction you'd like to head, I'll shuffle this over to him for his review and hopefully blessing.
I would think that that's the direction you want to go.
I just wonder if we should finalize it and then send it to the attorney.
I think that's probably a good idea. We'll get the red out and then he can add his own red if he wants to. Does everyone agree about that?
Yeah, there's one section in here that, according to the SDA manual, it was rather large and I didn't type all that stuff in there, so it does need to be added with guys' guidance as to what really needs to be in the manual. So.
Okay.
So I'm not asking for a
finally-
vote or anything, but am I getting nods or no's, or how are you guys thinking about this?
Yeah, let's get it wrapped up and sent to the attorney.
Is that the general
Oh,
feeling?
yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
Clean
Will do.
up and do that, I think. The next one is the disbursement policy. It's the last page of our packet.
Again, this is another discussion issue. We've had conversations about this often since I've been here. And I know this is an issue that comes up a lot. So I looked around in a couple different places how they do it. What I would recommend here in a policy to start this discussion is what I've outlined. Checks are cut twice a month. The process is the checks are reviewed by the district manager. Well, the checks are first going to be reviewed by the finance person playing the role. In this case, Jamie plays the role of finance. Then they're going to be reviewed by the district manager. Upon approval from the district manager, checks are made available to be signed by 2 district board members, with one preferably being the board treasurer. If board members review checks and approve, the check shall be signed. If the second board member is not available, the district manager shall be the second signatory. Every month at the board meeting, board members will be provided a statement of payments for the review. The board shall make a motion and second to approve disbursements per your rules, regulations, and bylaws. This is so common. So I think, for instance, Pagosa Springs, they basically do it where you're informed, or the board is informed of what was spent. I think that's what they called it. Bayfield still calls it an appropriation, but it works. It's money that they've already signed checks and sent out the door. That's common. So instead of, in my mind, instead of making this a exercise of the board, and they are approved at the monthly meeting, because your monthly meeting really does tie the hands with some of these bills. You know, credit card companies are notorious for 1 second after it's due, they start bringing up charges, stuff like that. We have a lot of vendors that behave that way, so we need to get the money out the door probably every 2 weeks. So I kind of went more with a policy baseline that deals with making sure things are done right before they're sent out. And so that's why you kind of have those multiple levels that all involve staff, your management, and board members to get the signatory point. And then we basically are updating the board at the monthly meetings. And that's just to keep the wheels of this organization moving and money flowing.
Direction on that?
I would like to see one thing added to this policy, Guy. I was trying to go through and look for some expenses, specific expenses throughout the year and through last year to see about the solar project. And none of the disbursement ledgers, or I'm not sure what you call it, check registers, are posted. Is that something that can be posted at the end of every board meeting because we are approving it, so it's out there?
Yeah, so that's part, you will get it. You're supposed to, or, yes, at the monthly meeting, you'll get a check register of what has been dispersed and put in a check form and distributed. And that's kind of what you're approving. The check register, every time we cut our, $40,000 to $60,000 worth of checks every 2 weeks, on top of that should be the check register. And that's what you're comparing. So that there's the check register created by Cassell, and then the checks and with the backing documentation of each check, so that the check signer can go through and look at the check that they're supposed to sign and see if it matches up with the backup documentation. Then that backup documentation is going to stay with the third panel of the check, and a hard copy can go in a box, the vendor file. Where we'd like to get, because Cassell can do this, is scan it all and put it into files in Cassell. So if we're ever looking for a check that we sent 3 years ago, we can look that up and see the check and the backing documentation, because it's not worth anything unless you have backing documentation. You can't go back into history and find things like you're talking about. So I think once the process gets done of sending the checks out.
We've approved X amount for this meeting, but there's no register attached to the minutes that are posted anywhere to say what those disbursements were. So we would have to come into the office then.
No, that should be added. That should be added. That should be part of your, that should go out in your agenda package. Should be that.
Yeah. That's not posted online anywhere except for like maybe the last month.
Yep.
With the minutes, the approved minutes that are out online. So I'm just wondering if we can get those out there at least maybe for 2023.
I think we can, but I think in the future, that check register, even if the checks were cut 3 weeks ago, if it's between the last meeting and this meeting, that register should be part of the financial report that comes out.
Oh, okay.
Should come under financial. So we can make sure that happens. And I know that's been kind of hit or miss. And a lot of that has been just working with Cassell, some of the confusion with that. But no, that's something that should be in the agenda packet, and then that stays on the website and that stays in history too. So if somebody wants to go and look at it, they can look at the packet material.
Right, thank you.
So it sounds like we're going on the right direction on that one here today. Okay.
All right, so that's another one then that I will put in a policy format, and we'll bring it back via resolution at the next meeting to approve if everybody's good with the direction we're heading.
Yeah, we did have an issue in February and March disbursements. Both say the exact same amount, so I don't know how a correction needs to be made for that. If that's just internally, or if there has to be something done online about that.
Board doesn't need to take any action on that. That's probably an internal thing, and that's something that we're gonna catch. I don't know why that happened,
Okay.
but I can. But no, that doesn't take board action.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
So
thanks,
one
guys.
other item we want to do is maybe add that we're interested in letters of anyone that's interested in being a board member. Maybe we could put that on the update. Send in your letter of interest to the board right here at this office. If we could add that to the update maybe as well, so we can get residents that are interested.
When would you like those due by? I would think I would maybe the
What's the
second
time?
of. I'm sorry.
What's our timeframe? 60 days or?
I think you have 60 days. And you have the choice to do it the way that you're doing it right now, to solicit applicants, or you can hold a special election and people can nominate themselves, go get signatures, be put on the ballot. Obviously, this is a much easier way of doing it. So what I would suggest though is you're trying to get this wrapped up in the next meeting. I would have your drop dead date for applicants be probably the 2nd of October. That's a Monday. That allows people to have a few weekends. We get the information out. We try to get it out as much as we can, and then maybe have end of business October 2nd, which is a Monday, for getting applications in. Packet would then go out, I think, on the 6th. So that would give us a couple days to get it all organized, and then the applicants would come to that meeting on the 10th and present themselves to you, and maybe do a quick speech or information about themselves, and then you guys would make a decision. And
Yeah, that's a
appoint them
good-
at that meeting.
Yeah, I love that. Get it on.
Okay, letters of interest we'll have due by the 2nd then.
That sounds great. October 2nd.
Yep.
To the office here. Moving on to number 12, approval of disbursements.
I motion to approve the check issues of August 1st through August 31st in the amount of $132,581.34.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, so passed. And item 13, adjournment. Any motions?
I motion to approve, adjourn.
Second.
Everyone in agreement? Okay, I currently have the time as 8:37. Right?
Is that one question in chat? Has that been answered? I see there's one question in chat. I think that did get answered. Yeah, okay. We addressed that one. Great.
It's the chief one.
What one is
Yep.
it now?
Chief.
We answered it.
That one's been done.
Everybody.
Okay.
Appreciate everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
guys.
you. Thanks.
How's Keystone?